And we are back from break. We're joined now by Dr. Jerome Corsi. He's got a PhD from Harvard. He's been the author of Unfit for Command, the Swiftboat book against John Kerry, and a whole lot more, including a North American Union book and so much other coverage. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
A great pleasure to be back with you. Thank you.
Now, you told us you've got a breaking story today just on money laundering and big Wall Street scandal stuff. Why don't you break it down for us?
It's a very top story at WND.com, the Skyline story. There's a whistleblower that's contacted WND I've been working with out of HSBC Bank, which is one of the biggest banks in the world. And this whistleblower has brought 1,000 pages of internal bank documents, which show a multi-billion, probably trillion-dollar scheme to money launder through the bank with the obvious compliance and knowledge of senior management. It looks like the bank has become it's like a criminal operation being run internally in the bank. The wire transfers coming into and out of accounts show millions of dollars of activity in accounts that were established through identity theft. Mm-hmm. Evidently, what the bank has done is they've stolen the legitimate names and social security numbers of people who don't even know their names are being used to have accounts established at HSBC, and then millions of dollars run through these accounts in money laundering. It's an incredible scandal. And we have 1,000 pages of the internal bank documentation that John Cruz, the whistleblower, took with him when he was basically fired from the bank for trying to get the bank's attention to this scandal.
And you were talking yesterday with Alex about all the money laundering from the drug gangs. All that stuff has been through banks like Wachovia by the hundreds of millions, if not billions.
Well, I see, this is the thing. I mean, if you think about it for a minute, the drug business and the drug cartel in Mexico, let's say they do $2 trillion in revenue annually. I mean, you know how heavy $2 trillion is in $100 bills? It's worthless. Mm-hmm. It has to get into the banking system, and the banks provide a vehicle for it. Then the federal government comes along. When they catch a bank like HSBC, they give them a fine. Well, these major banks have $2 billion reserved just to pay fines. As long as the bank is not considered a criminal bank and nobody goes to jail, the fine is just a cost of doing business, and they go on their merry way, laundering trillions of dollars of business around the world illegally.
We've got such widespread corruption with Wall Street, a lot of anger, obviously, at Wall Street, but there's a big crony capitalism problem, too, based in the Washington and the leadership there. What do you see as the guiding light to sort of reforming the larger scandal with the housing collapse and everything going on? How are we ever going to get out of this mess, Doctor?
Well, I think we need to first of all, get down to the honesty of it. I mean, a good idea just be fire everybody in Washington, reduce the size of the federal government, the corruption coming through the federal government. Anybody who doesn't think this is government managed and government complicit is crazy. I'm sure by the time we get down to the bottom of these money laundering scandals that I'm investigating, it's not only going to be drug money and terrorist money. I'm sure we're going to find part of the stimulus money going into money laundering. But if they got 700 or 800 billion dollars in stimulus money, I'm sure the politicians in Washington get a high level, and the cronies setting up these fake Solyndra energy businesses can find a way to take 10% of that and skim it off through money laundering and pocket it. That's the problem. There's so much money. With trillions of dollars of deficits, we're so awash in money that we've set up an invitation for criminals in the government and banks to participate, to have a field day and enrich themselves in the process.
Sure. And then
see, the key realization is we're not in this global crisis by accident. The globalists, the banks, the government leaders, sure, borrow trillions. What difference does it make? They're never going to repay it. And while they're borrowing it, they can be stealing it. They can be running programs of giveaways. The giveaways, when you take a look at the money on the border, $2 trillion in the drug trade, the idea is to keep it open so the banks can continue to launder the money. The illegal immigrants are a detail. Nobody really cares about them. Right. They're just kind of incidental to the whole operation, which is really about the drug war. keep the border open so the drug war can flow and the good times can roll in the banks.
Sure. Isn't it in the larger picture a game of musical chairs to use the increasingly worthless money until the music stops and buy up real assets and for those in power to position themselves?
Right. In the meantime, the middle class gets destroyed. Everybody who believes in the values of government is trying to live an honest life is in a diminished capacity, and the thieves are having a field day. And when the currencies collapse, the ones that will be having any wealth at all will still be the thieves. And then, like in the Depression, they'll run around and buy the hard assets that are left, re-ante, and do it all over again. When I wrote America for Sale, I warned people that this globalism is a scheme devised by the globalists to further enrich the banks and the globalists. And the government officials that play along are going to get enriched in the process.
Now, switching gears, Dr. Corsi, obviously there's a lot of cynicism towards the elections in general. We always seem to get the lesser of two evils to choose from. But an even bigger question, is Obama even eligible? Obviously, that's been a huge question in your work. But now we've got the Georgia judge, I believe he's about to rule within a day or two's time on whether or not Obama has proven himself eligible. He didn't show up for the hearing, and that could spread, as you mentioned before, to other states. Where do you see that going?
Well, I think it's going to be a 50-state challenge, state by state. The administrative law judge in Georgia has very little time to make the decision. The Georgia primary, Democratic primary, I believe, is on March 6th, and the ballots have to be printed or reprinted if Obama's name is going to be taken off the Democratic primary ballot. And the attorney didn't show up. The judge indicated he was ready to do a default judgment. Clearly, the judge has already said there was going to be no motion to dismiss the procedure, that the president had made such a motion. The judge refused to grant it, saying that the laws that the president cited were not controlling. And that's very bad news for the White House, because what it kind of telegraphs is that this judge may be going more in the direction of Minor v. Happersett, requiring natural-born citizens to be eligible to be president to have two U.S. citizen parents at birth and born in the United States. And Barack Obama probably is disqualified on both counts. His father was Kenyan, never a U.S. citizen. The arguments were made at the court that the birth certificate's a fraud, a forgery. And in Indonesia, Obama may also have lost his natural-born citizenship status. He was Barry Soetoro officially, Barry Soribarka, when his mother removed him from her passport. How can a person have an Indonesian surname and still be a natural-born U.S. citizen? It's not possible.
Right. And so obviously this should have been dealt with before Barack Obama ran the first time. But
Yes.
now that he's running the second time, if people do accept the idea that he's not eligible, what kind of crisis of confidence is this going to create? What's going to happen to our entire country?
Well, first of all, I think it clearly is going to be a major detriment to Obama getting reelected. If one state fights and keeps Obama off the ballot, how's he going to win presidency of Georgia or several other states along with Georgia say to Obama, you're not going to be on the ballot, you're not a natural-born citizen? Problem's not going away. It might even get it to the point where there's a constitutional crisis and his current presidency is questionable, whether he's a usurper. But remember, we've also got Sheriff Arpaio conducting a law enforcement investigation in Maricopa County in Arizona for the Tea Party residents who have asked and petitioned that Sheriff look into whether Obama is eligible to be president. And that report is going to come out at the end of February.